Hey, it's the Jpaydirt pipe jig. Oh, trying to weld a new coupler to old pipe, and the inside of the pipe is wacky. It's quite a feat, and I had to grind it in places inside to try to get it kind of the way I want it, and then bash it around with a hammer. But I think I'm ready to tack it right there. What a pain! So here's Jeff's hack for the day to get a straight pipe. Just looking at this, I could see that I was really high on this side. So I just went and got a stainless steel hose clamp, and I put the part that sticks out down here because I knew this was the straight piece where I wanted to not grind. And you just put the clamp on there and kind of snug it up. Well, snug it up good and tight the first time, and then you can see where you got daylight under it and you need to move it, then kind of loosen it up a little and position it, and then just go to grinding. And when you get down to the clamp, you're done. Anyway, it's nice and straight now, so I can attempt to weld that on. I've got the concentric reducer, non-concentric reducer welded on that. Oh, it's a windy, nasty day, but I've got this pipe in. I've got the new reducer put in, and so I'm hoping everything's gonna not leak when I fill it with water. Okay, one of the last things I got to do on this tanker deal is cut me a piece of metal to sit in the bottom of the saddle of this clamp. This is gonna hold the pipe with the valve on it down and support it. Here's what I've done with this. I found a perfect 3-inch piece of radiator hose that we'd cut off, just a chunk. I save everything. You just never know when you might need it. Anyway, so all I did was split it, put it over this pipe, and I cut this piece of metal to go under the clamp here. And then this is the aluminum piece. I've got it clamped here, and I've got the pipe raised up off of this, and I've got good drainage, so everything's going to drain out of it. So now I need to do is go get a drill some holes and put some bolts in there, and that's mounted on there. I have relocated that bracket, moved the whole pipe assembly. It used to go in there. Put one bolt in there because there's a big aluminum bracket that welds to that channel for strength, and then put these in there. Now I need to fill it full of water and see if she's gonna hold. The one place I'm really concerned about is that Victolic coupling right there. I had a terrible time welding that. I should have cut this pipe off clear back in here and got into this good heavy 45 and replaced that. And probably should have bought a new flange and welded everything new. Actually, should have just got rid of everything, this whole pipe assembly, and started over from scratch. If I had to do it again, that's what I'd do. Start from scratch. Okay, I got water in it, and the place I was worried about it leaking the most is not leaking. And the second place I was worried about it leaking is dry. So I'm tickled about that. I feel nothing on here, so I can paint that. I can't believe it. No leaks. So while the scrapers are getting a bath, I'm gonna get in the truck and go get me some more of those little rocks with the sand in them. Trying to level out my driveway over here. Got a low spot, need to fix it. buy a 980M. It only takes 2 scoops. That's a big effing loader, man. Got joysticks, no steering wheel. Yep, full. 2 scoops, man. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I've been trying to figure out where to put my Johnny ball on the grader today. Let me show you where I really like it. I kind of like it right down here on the side of my column on the grader, but I think to mount it there, I'm going to have to build some kind of a bracket to mount it on. Something. This comes with mounting cups so that you can switch from one machine to the next. But I need to use some of these bolts or something, and I need to build a nice flat mounting bracket for it. But I really like this. But I want to get that in here. I've been doing some grading in the yard, and I've also got a slope indicator. And I've had my Johnny ball kind of stuck on there. So let me go show you what I'm doing. So this is where we come in with the low boy in the driveway here, and we like to pull over in here and be able to load and unload. But every year I add a little gravel and I try to improve this. And so what I did is I had a big low spot in the belly in there, and it wasn't level to load and unload. So I hauled in some gravel, and I was trying to maintain a 3% cross slope. And if you're grading, you don't need stakes and stuff to do that. I was just using the slope meter and trying to get the hang of the Johnny ball. But when you cut, and you can maintain that bubble on 3% as you go along, in order to do that, you really, without machine control, if you're just doing this by eyeball the way I do it, you can't take full widths, because what happens is you start to cut half rounds and quarter rounds like that all the time. And so basically what you do is kind of center yourself on the windrow and get your blade set out here and move the material and make your slope meter stay on 3%. And so grading without grade control is like sanding on a piece of wood. You go over it and over it until it's what you want. And so that's a lot of my grading. That's what I do, because I don't have machine control. And so, I mean, that stuff's awesome. I wish I had it. But anyway, so let me show you. I just made a pass through here, and the grader will find all your low spots. And this was part of my belly right in here. So I need to go get some more gravel, and then I'm going to add some up there in front of the fuel truck and behind my truck and the service truck, and raise that all up and try to get that on a 3%. So all the water comes out here, drains, and then it goes that way towards the red twin stacker machine gun part down there. So the biggest problem people make with running a grader is trying to constantly run material out the end of the blade, and that's not what you want to do. To be successful at grading, you got to cut grade. That grader will find the high and low spots. So like right here, I could have cut deeper, but now you can't see the hole. And so without machine control, you got to do certain things so you see those holes. So if the grader quits running material out the end of the blade and your slope meter says you're where you should be, you got a problem there. You need more material. And that's part of the reason why sometimes you go down highways and you go along and the road does this and then back up and this and back up. It's because when they were cutting it for finished grade before they oiled it, blade operator had come to the hub stakes, and he'd start lifting up the blade, and then he'd get over him, he'd go down. And generally, if he was blading to the center, he'd lower his tip down to keep cutting material. So in between stations, you'll get this, the road does this, or it'll tip and do that. And with machine control, that should be a thing of the past. But so I got some more gravel in up here next to the shop. If you remember how steep it was off of here, and it was a pit run. Kind of sloped it in to match what's out there so the water will drain. Hey, good morning everybody. So I got the tanker put together. Threw the hose in the ditch here. Isn't that pretty clear water? Almost looks like you can drink it, but I wouldn't. But I've put some prime water in the tank, run the garden hose up there, and I've got water in the pump now, so I got prime water. So what I'm going to do is shut this valve off, take this hose off, put the suction hose on, and then start the pump, let it warm up a little, and then we'll time it and see how long it takes to fill the tanker. Now, to fill the tanker clear full, 8,000 gallons, with the old setup that I had, took 42 to 45 minutes. I have a line in the tank that we've made. It's about 7,000, I think it is. It used to take about 34 minutes, 32, depending on what kind of lift you have. I don't really have a big lift here. So we're going to see how much this speeds up the process and how much faster this engine will run the pump. But that's my hose. And since this is an old fuel tanker, I got these original holes in here. The one anyway. The other one, I used it to run the hose back to the spray bar. So that's where I store my hose. Okay, I got the hose hooked on there, the suction. I want to thank some people helping me with this, because they gave me a lot of good advice. One in particular was Roger Marshall. And I talked to him on the phone quite a bit about this and various other things. Anyway, I want to thank Roger for giving me some advice on this, explaining some of the hydraulics. And then there was one other guy, he gave me a link to the, I think, five something of pumping that you need to follow. And that had some really good advice in it. Let's see if we can get our Chinese motor running, make sure I got the gas on, turn the gas on. You know, these are as good as a Honda. You just give them a little chokey. Where's the choke lever? I can't find it. Doggone it, Jeff. Where's the stupid choke? Come on, man. Oh, right there. That's the choke. I'll reach back here and start her up. That they just fire right up. You just choke them once and they're going. So we'll let that warm up before we go full throttle. See, she's pulling her prime. The hose is running down in the weeds there, so she's getting heavy. Pumping. Okay, let's start the timer. Okay, we're into this 22 minutes and we're at the black line, which normally took 34 minutes with the other pump, so we're doing quite a bit better, about a third better. Okay, so 22 minutes exactly to fill it to the black line in the tank. And normally it would take 32 to 34 with the 8 horsepower engine. This thing has no problem cranking this pump and running 3,600 RPM, which I think is a big part of why it's pumping faster. Number one, I've got the horsepower to spin the pump, and you got to crank them 3600 or they're not going to pump their full capacity. Then the other one is, this has got to be the best way to do this. Straight into the pump. No sharp bends, nothing. So there's a flapper valve inside there, if you can see that. And it slams shut. So if the motor was to run out of gas or quit or whatever, you would not lose the prime water out of your hose. So that's my short little piece that I hooked to it with a screen on it, so I can suck out of ditches and stuff. And then the reason I did that is because I also have an adapter to go to mainline, so I can hook it to that, or fire hydrant, so I can hook it to that. So now it's just a straight hose with a male and female end, if I can say that. And then it's going to go in this hole. Dumping the water out.
Please, everyone.
Yeah, got to please yourself. So I think I got a ground problem. What do you think? We're going to touch this to the tank, fuel tank, see if they start to spray. Yep, I got a ground problem. See, this is how water runs if you got a decent grade. On dirt, it takes at least a 3%. But remember that hole I showed you out here? Yep, still there. That's where the water's gonna go, to the hole. But it is running that way, so just need to fill the hole. So I don't have a roller to roll this, but I gotta take the 336 to a job. So I just thought I'd make a few hot laps around the yard with the 336 and do a little rollering. Makes a pretty good roller. I just want to get all this kind of tamped down before it dries out today. That keeps the dust down, mashes the rocks in, you know. Anyway, the 16 tire Jeep leaves a cool little tread pattern. Covers things pretty good. Maybe that should be my next purchase, as a roller. What do you think? Rollers are designed to beat themselves to death. I keep being told by people I don't want to own one, just rent them. But that's a pain in the ass. If I could just find a good used one, pretty good shape, a big one, I'd be tickled to death.